Dementia Researcher with a blog and a rating.
Welcome back to my corner of the Dementia Researcher blogs. Today I want to talk about what could prove to be an exciting development in dementia research, but not everyone agrees. So what am I talking about? Well, news outlets have erupted in recent weeks in response to the announcement that the Food and Drug Administration, which I'll refer to as the FDA, have approved the clinical use of a new Alzheimer's treatment for the first time in nearly 20 years. The new drug is produced by American multinational biotechnology company Biogen under the trade name Aduhelm. It's an antibody that targets the aggregates of amyloid beta protein that clump together in the brains of Alzheimer's patients, causing the death and loss of brain cells and the precious memories stored within their networks. The drug binds to amyloid beta with the aim of reducing the number of aggregates or plaques in the brain, potentially slowing disease progression. So it all sounds very promising. But for some reason, the news wasn't greeted with the resounding optimism and celebration you'd expect from a potentially game-changing treatment. So why has it got this mixed response? Well, one factor is the contradiction the FDA have made in regarding the approval of Aduhelm, having concluded in a trial last year that there was not enough evidence to support its efficacy as a treatment. A phase 3 review in November 2020 resulted in a resounding rejection of the drug, with 10 of the 11 external reviewers concluding that the data was insufficient to warrant approval for clinical use. Dr. Michael Carome, Director of Health Research for the non-profit watchdog group Public Citizen, went as far as saying that the FDA's decision shows a stunning disregard for science and eviscerates the agency's standards for approving new drugs. A damning review indeed. Another big issue is the potential cost of the drug. As with many antibody treatments, Aduhelm will be administered by infusion, with a new dose required once every 4 weeks. The US estimates that this will cost at least $4,312 per treatment, racking up a rather considerable $56,000 per year. So this is a bit of an issue when you consider that in May of this year, the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review released a report saying that a drug should ideally cost between $2,560 and $8,290 per year to be viable, and noted in regard to Aduhelm that the evidence is insufficient to conclude that the clinical benefits of Donanemab, which is its scientific name, outweigh its harms, or indeed that it reduces progression. So why the approval? The evidence is firmly stacked up against it, right? Well, don't lose hope just yet. I've got some better news for you. Let's start with a patient story from the clinical trials. The drug is aimed at patients who are showing the very early stages of Alzheimer's. In particular, it looks at people suffering with mild cognitive impairment due to the disease, or those with early Alzheimer's dementia. Patients like this are still self-aware, mostly able, but they suffer frequent mental lapses. This period is widely regarded as rescuable, and if we can find a way, then this could help because the brain isn't thought to be damaged beyond repair at this point. Jenny Knapp, who's 69, is one such patient, and she's been receiving infusions of Aduhelm for over a year. In a recent review with CNN, she told reporters, "I can't say if I noticed it on a daily basis, but I do think overall I'm doing much better in terms of looking for where my glasses are," things like that. This is a classic example of the type of lapse you'd expect in such a patient, and her physician, Dr. Babak Tusi, commented, "Aducanumab's promise is to slow down the progression of the disease and not to improve the cognition. In her case, we did not appreciate any major decline." Good news in Jenny's case then. And she's not alone. Commenting on the study data, the FDA Director for Drug Evaluation and Research stated, "We determined this drug favorably modifies a key pathological process, reducing the amount of amyloid plaque in the brain of patients with Alzheimer's, and that this improvement is reasonably likely to predict clinical benefit of the drug." She is not alone in her optimism. Groups like the Alzheimer's Association have hailed the FDA's decision to approve the drug as a step forwards in opening the door for more extensive research into chronic brain diseases. In recent years, we've seen rejections in funding as large pharmaceutical organizations become skeptical about the hopes of finding treatments for diseases like Alzheimer's in the near future. This could provide such organizations with a bit more faith that this is a valid fight, especially when you consider the words of ADDF founding Executive Director and Chief Scientific Officer, Howard Phillips, MD. Aducanumab is just the first of several Alzheimer's drugs that will become available in the next 5 to 10 years. The robust Alzheimer's research pipeline, complemented by a growing number of biomarkers and other important research tools, means that the clinical trials underway today are more rigorous and more promising than ever. So this drug is only approved on the condition of a follow-up trial to prove that it does slow the progression of Alzheimer's. There is hope that it can prove the doubters wrong and represent a real game changer, paving the way for a new wave of treatments for our loved ones. At the moment, Aduhelm feels a bit like it's walking a tightrope, but let me finish with a reference from the TV show Fargo that I believe is fitting. Series 1 protagonist Gus Grimley sits with his neighbour in the middle of the night and poses an ethical question about what to do when he knows somebody is guilty but he can't find the proof. The man replies with a parable about a rich man who wants to fix all the suffering in the world. He starts by donating all his money. It's not enough. He donates a kidney, but it is still not enough. So he takes his own life, writing organ donor on the walls before he completes the act. When asked the point of the story, the man replies, "Only a fool thinks he can solve the world's problems." Gus replies with one of the most optimistic lines of the show. "Yeah, but you got to try, don't you?" This is where Aduhelm sits for me. It would be foolish to think this will solve all our cases of Alzheimer's. But if it can improve the lives of some, we have to try, right?
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.